Okay. Well, I see that the stream is up, but I can't change the camera view. So I can't show you the, the slides. That's odd. It's not here. But okay, you can follow the slides and that is uploaded. And then listen to me. But that means I need to upload the correct version of the slides. Well, I'll do that in a break. I don't think there's much change here in the beginning. So, okay, we're talking about set now then. And the sequence of events for transactions. So you start by opening account, get a credit card, receive a certificate for that credit card. The merchant also needs a certificate, so it needs to establish its web store and get a certificate for a web place. Now a customer goes to the web store, places an order. At this stage, the merchant is verified by the certificate. So now the customer knows who the merchant is and that it's correct. Once we are done with order, we send order and payment information. We are telling what we would like to buy and how we would like to pay for it. The merchant can, with this information, contact the payment gateway and say, okay, I have a customer here who would like to buy something and he would like to pay it in this way. So the payment gateway can now check if that payment information is correct. Someone can actually pay with that credit card. The merchant gets information back from payment gateway saying, yes, that's fine, that credit card is valid and you can draw that amount of money from it. Then the merchant confirms the order to the customer, provides the goods or service, whatever, to the customer, and then go back to the payment gateway and say, okay, now I've given the service, now I actually would like to move the money. So up here, 7th step is just to ask for a permission and checking that it will work to get the money. And down here at step 10, we actually asked for getting the money. Now, the nice thing about SET, I think the nicest thing about SET is this one. It's called the dual signature, which is a little bit complex, but is a very nice idea. What this dual signature is that we start to the left here with the payment information and the order information. So these are two text documents telling what we would like to buy and how we would like to pay for it. So the payment information is just the information about our credit card, and the order information is whatever we would like to order then. As you see, what we do then is we take a hash of them, and that will give us this PIMD and OIMD. So these are just fingerprints of the payment and order information. Then we concatenate them and take a new hash. And this will be the payment order message digest. So it's a combination of what we would like to buy and how. And then we encrypt that with the customer's private signature key. So we sign it and say, okay, this is actually what we would like to buy and how we would like to pay for it. And that creates our dual signature. It's dual because we combine both order and payment information in it. Why do we do it in two steps like this? Well, that is because how we'll later use this information. So, here we see the payment processing part. This is the message that we will send to the merchant. So this is the request message that is sent to the merchant. And as you see, it contains a number of different things here. We start to the left here with payment information and this dual signature that we already created in the previous slide, and the order information message digest. So okay, the dual signature is encrypted, the order information message digest is just a fingerprint, and the payment information is clear text. We encrypt all of that with a session key. And then we encrypt the order information message digest with the that session key is encrypted with the bank's public key exchange. Not the merchant, the bank's. So we encrypt this information that we have here, we encrypt the key. All of that information, who can access that information? The first two fields here.
Bank.
Yeah, the bank. So the merchant hasn't this information. The merchant can only pass it on to the bank. Then we have payment information message digest, which is just a hash. Then we have order information in clear text. Then we again have a dual signature and a certificate for the cardholder, so we can prove who we are. So all of this is received by the merchant. What the merchant can read directly in this message is, of course, our certificate, which means that the merchant can get our public key. With that public key, we can decrypt the dual signature, and we can immediately read the order information because that is in clear text. So the merchant knows who is trying to buy something and what we would like to buy. But the merchant doesn't know how we would like to pay for it because that information is encrypted and we can't access it. But we can pass it on to the bank. So directly what the merchant can do is, as I said, we can verify the customer's certificate, we can decrypt the dual signature, we can make our own hash of his order information, which we can concatenate with the payment hash. That is also part of the message. We can hash them. That means we have a means to check that this order information is connected with this encrypted payment information. They are linked together in this way. If we change anything in the order information, or if we try to change anything in the payment information, the dual signature will not compare anymore. So we have linked them together. That means the bank couldn't try to change anything, the merchant couldn't try to change anything, and the customer couldn't do it either, because all of them are linked by this dual signature. So the idea with this is to make it possible for everyone to know that, okay, you couldn't back on what your order is. You have ordered this and you want to pay it in this way. You couldn't back on either of those two. What is also nice is that if we look at what the bank receives, I don't have a slide for that, but we can go back here. If we look at what the bank receives, it's this. It's the payment information in clear text because the bank can decrypt that part. We also get the dual signature and we get this order information message digest. But that means that the bank knows exactly how we pay for something, but it doesn't know what we pay for because the order information is just a hash. We can see, the bank again can see that these two items are connected to each other, but the bank couldn't see what you're paying for. So that is the privacy aspect of SET, that no one knows more than they need to know. The merchant knows what you want to pay for, but not how you pay for it, and the bank knows how you pay for it, but not what you buy. So that's keeping your privacy as much as possible. In the background then, we had these two steps here that the merchant is doing with the gateway. First, to authorize a payment, check that we can pay for it, and then later on actually ask for it. Of course, here is sort of a weakness, because if we go back to this step here, the customer makes an order, everything checks, the merchant requests payment authorization, it checks out, the merchant confirms the order, but doesn't provide the goods. There is no check that the merchant actually provides the goods. So the merchant can still ask for payment and just don't send any goods. There's no check-in set for that. But of course, the merchant is known by the bank, and it wouldn't hold for long if they misuse this. So, set is a nice feature, a nice standard. It does keep, it is secure, and it keeps the privacy, which is nice. But it never really took on. It was implemented and it was used by some, but not very much. And today it's not used at all. The main problem behind that is that the entire standard was quite complex to implement. There are a lot of different parts that need to be part of a chain here, and everyone needed a certificate. And at this time, client certificates were not very common. So it was expensive and difficult for normal customers to actually get a certificate connected to their credit card. And without it, SET couldn't work. So let's move on to the second protocol instead, then 3D Secure, which is we can see as the protocol that has released SET. Yeah.
For SET, couldn't we just use our credit cards as smart cards, so everyone's just getting a certificate with the credit card?
We could have, but at that time you didn't have any smart credit cards. You just had them with a magnetic swipe. You didn't have them with the chips on them. We go back in time now. So you couldn't have those type of credit cards, and there were no mechanism really to produce these type of certificates for clients. But today we have them, so today it would be SET could work much more easily. But now we have 3D Secure instead. So 3D Secure is heavily based on SSL TLS to get the security of confidentiality, which actually SET also was, because if you look at the connection between the client and the merchant, the idea was that that should also actually be protected with SSL TLS, even though it wasn't necessary since the information was encrypted, but not the order information. So you could see what you wanted to buy, clear text, if you capture that. There have been a number of versions of this 3D Secure. The current standard is 2.0 of 3D Secure itself, but as we'll talk about a little, there are an extension to 3D Secure that is at 2.2 right now, and it's expected that they will merge into a new 2.3 standard for SET that also handles these extensions. But that's not complete yet, at least. So they have been working on this for quite many years, and we'll also come back to there have been some bumps on the road. But let's look at the standard first. The standard builds on this idea with a free domain model, and that's why it's called 3D. There are 3 domains. We have this issue domain with a cardholder and issuer. We have an acquire domain where the merchant and acquirer is. And then we have an intermediate domain here that facilitates the exchange of different type of messages that are needed, and some type of directories as well. We can see that we have the same actors really as we have for set, which is not very surprising since we have those actors when we talk about online purchases. So we have credit card company, we have the banks. But the idea is that we have these 3 domains in this model then. And then, well, this is the slide that talks about these domains. The 3D standard is a standard, but then there are different implementation for it. So different credit card companies have very similar service based on the standard, but they are called different things. So Visa has this verified by Visa, MasterCard calls it secure code, and so on. So there are different names for it, but it's really the 3D secure standard behind them. A part of 3D secure is that you have an enrollment phase. And what that means that you have a credit card and it's now up to you to enroll that or not to be protected with 3D secure. Some credit card companies now require that you do it, but for some it's optional. So the credit card holder can visit an issuer enrollment site where you provide enrollment data, and an important thing here, you establish a shared secret here. So you say that together with my card I have some type of secret that I need to know in order to use this card later on. This shared secret can be a PIN code, it can be a password, it can be a biometric method. There are different techniques supported today for it. The issuer of a credit card verifies the cardholder identity. So we know that yes, that is the owner of this credit card. And then we store information in this account holder file about this credit card and the secret. So now we have established that a customer have a credit card and we have a shared secret connected to that card. Then we have the transactions, and as you see, it's quite complex. There are lots of different steps that is needed for one transaction. We have a customer up here, owns a credit card. Down here we have a credit card company. We have a ledger here with information about credit cards. We have a dictionary that makes it possible for anyone, any merchant, to check, is this card protected or not, and where should I go to check that protection? So in this dictionary it tells if it's Visa or MasterCard or whatever that we need to go to check. We have a merchant up here with what's called a merchant plugin. That is part of the web shop or application that can be today as well, but it's this part that is connecting with this directory. And then we have acquired domain, and between the credit card company and the bank there is still this payment network, which is again not really part of the 3D secure. It is just mentioned that we need to have this way to actually move money. So the flow then is roughly like this. You make an order. The merchant have to check in the directory if that card is protected with 3D secure or not, and then by whom. There's a signal going from a directory, if it's protected, to the issuer, saying that, okay, now someone would like to use this credit card that is protected. A signal goes back here, saying, okay, fine, there's a credit card here, we will handle the authentication of that. Goes back to the plugin. And then the merchant contacts the customer saying, okay, you want to pay with a credit card that's protected with 3D Secure. That means that you need to authenticate. So now both the credit card owner and credit card company knows that, okay, we are now in a process of authenticating this card. And that is what is happening here. 789, you are authenticating against the credit card company. Typically what happens is that it pops up a new screen, a new window. That is not coming from the merchant, it comes from the credit company, and here you authenticate, saying that, okay, this is my shared secret, this is the way I would like to authenticate this card. If that works out, you get a sort of a ticket back, or a cookie, that you can pass on to the merchant, who is the proof of, yes, you have been able to authenticate, so you are actually the owner of this card. At this stage, the merchant can now know that, yes, we can pay for it. It logs it, it passes on information to the acquired domain to actually start moving money from the credit card company to the bank of a merchant. So there are many steps, but the really important thing here is that whenever you authenticate, you don't authenticate against the merchant, you authenticate against your credit card company. So that's the bearing idea here, is that the merchant shouldn't do that. And so you don't have to trust the merchant. It's the credit card company that you need to have trust in. So all of these steps are described here. Yeah, question?
Find any credit card or Visa, you put the old digit and the secret number, you can buy anything. So what kind of application do you mean?
Well, if you try to buy something with a card that is not protected with 3D Secure, as you say, the only thing you need to do is enter the name of a cardholder, the credit card number, the validity date, and then the secret code that is on the back of the card, right? If it's protected with 3D Secure, that is not enough. You also need this shared secret that you have negotiated when you enrolled your card. So that is not something that is seen on the card itself. So if someone finds your card and tries to buy with it, they won't be able to authenticate over here because they don't have that information.
According to my experience, when I went to buy something, they ask for bank ID.
Yeah.
When I went, but some, like when I book hotel or something, no, they take money without
Yep.
the bank ID.
Yeah. Not everyone is supporting 3D Secure still. So some web shops don't require it or don't use it, but most do it today. Yep.
So it means if the web shop is just saying like I'm not supporting this, then 3D Secure is basically not there.
Yep. It
So
is.
So basically, if the web shop says no,
Yep.
for one reason or another, the whole system is basically.
Yeah, but the idea is that at that stage you should stop and think, okay, do I really want to use my card in a web shop that is not supporting 3D Secure? And you should, if in doubt, you should back up at that stage and don't go through with it. But you probably, I mean, you have seen this, all of you, I guess. And you probably notice that it is used more and more. So it's not that common anymore that your web shops don't use it. So I think it actually has worked. There has been a pressure on merchants to support this, because people are backing away if it's not used. All the steps are described here, but let's move on with it. So some issues then that we have seen with 3D Secure. This authentication part, a new window or new frame opens up. The problem with that is that you might not recognize. It's not part of web store, so it's a new window. It has another address, another domain, it's web domain or domain address it's connected to. It's not obvious what that is, and that it's actually coming from a credit card company. And depending on how you do it, it might be very hard to see it. If it's an iframe part of a window, you couldn't even see where it comes from normally. You can just see that it's a frame here. So there are some phishing attacks that can be performed by people that are pushing up windows and asking you for that type of information, and you give it to the wrong site then. They have been working on this to minimize it, but it's still a problem even in the recent standard. Mobile devices have been a problem. That is something that I also worked on quite hard. So on the latest versions, mobile devices typically are supported unless they are old or very weak devices that couldn't support the type of encryption and so on. But we can almost forget about that today. EU had a regulation that took hold, as you see, 1st of February 2015, that requires strong authentication for internet payments. So in EU, you need to have strong authentication. It's not allowed to do normal purchases just with a credit card information without having a stronger authentication. The version 1.0 of 3D wasn't seen fully as what they mean with strong authentication. It's not exactly clear what is needed for a strong authentication compared with a normal authentication, but earlier version of 3D Secure was not considered to be strong enough, at least. And at that time, a lot of merchants and credit card companies wasn't connected to 3D Secure even. So a lot of online purchases was actually breaking the rule at that time. But 3D Secure did its part, so they updated the standard, and so it is strong today. And that not everyone is following it is not a problem with 3D Secure, of course. The last step here, merchants have been reluctant to add it because it requires one extra step. You probably know that Amazon was famous for their strategy when they made this one-click buy. So easy to buy, just click and then you're done. You don't have to add a lot of passwords and so on. And that is part of probably the reason why Amazon has been so successful. It's easy to use. And this goes against that, because now you need one more step to authenticate. So they don't like it, but I think they have seen that it's needed for security reasons. What is going on today with 3D Secure is this initiative, EMV, which the EMV is an organization that stands for, I think, Eurocard, MasterCard, Visa. So it's again a cooperation of some of the credit card companies. And they have seen some needed development of 3D Secure to support app-based authentication, digital wallets, and for instance, if you use gaming consoles, smart speakers, and so on, and want to buy something that way. The normal web shop and how 3D Secure works doesn't work in these situation, because you don't have a web window where you can establish a new iframe or window to authenticate. You need to be able to do it some other way. So they have developed methods to handle these other scenarios, but still protected in the same way with read secure and additional authentication and a roll card. So currently they are at 2.2 is standard, and as I said, it's envisioned to lead to a 2.3 standard of 3D Secure itself, a main standard that also incorporates this. So that's the situation of 3D Secure today then. So it's a well-established standard, it's used more and more. Now we have this other standard with credit card as well, but let's take a break here since it's, so let's start 2:15 to talk about the PCI standard then.
So many standards, like PCI. Why are there two PCIs?
PCI?
They're like, fuck the
This is our. Wait, are they different? Aren't they the same? Is it two different PCIs?
I don't know who developed that system. But you know what I mean with PCI, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Totally. Oh yeah.
Right.
Wow. Wait. This hard.
Too many damn standards.
Oh.